Okay, is there any question regarding last time? في رامي ما رجعت ردت علي. Okay. Let's open After Effects لكن. And I'm gonna assume that you don't have After Effects انتو. ترجع بتشتغلوا لوحدكم later on. Okay, so anything in particular جنى من last time؟ عبالك ارجع اقطع عليه او برجع بقطع على كل شي بسرعة؟ Alright. So basically كما نفتح After Effects we're gonna be prompted like this. بس بهالحالة هون we're not gonna push anything. We're just gonna push close and it's gonna open up After Effects. هلا mainly نحن the first time حكينا عنه كان الانترفيس والبانلز. Okay, you don't really need to pick up on anything, بس only we need to understand that it's made out of panels. So مثل Photoshop في عنا different panels and we can close and open any panel that we want. Let's say we want to close audio, which is the panel right here. We can just right click and just say close panel. So that's how we close it, or we can just go window and just close anything that we want that is already open. Let's say a line is open, so you can see it's clicked on right here. We can just quickly press on it and it will close. Okay, نفس الشيء we can open windows like this. So I can just rearrange the way my interface looks like in order to fit my needs and in order to cope with the project that I'm working on. So بهالحالة أنا البانلز تبعولتي كلهم under a workspace called standard which comes with After Effects لوحده. هلا I can just change my workspace to fit anything that I want. Let's say I'm animating in After Effects. So I can just press here and say animation. So that opens up the interface for animating. So After Effects created a group of panels that think that might help us when we're animating. So فتحنا كل شيء in that order right here. So motion sketch probably helps us with animation. So does preview and smoother and whatever. Okay, you can create your own workspace. بس أول شيء let's go back to standard. So we can create a workspace by just adding a few default panels عندنا. So let's say I want to open media browser and let's dock that here. So I just press on the media browser and you can see that now that I can dock it wherever I want. So let's say I want to place it here. So I placed media browser next to a line and let's make this a little bit bigger by just placing my mouse on the bar, on the blackboard, so I can make it bigger like this. And let's say I want my interface to look like that, so I can just go standard, new workspace, and I can call it whatever. So let's say my workspace, okay? And I can just press OK now. So now the workspace, my workspace is now created and enabled. So now if I go back مثلا to standard غيرناها نحن. So let's go to animation. And let's go back to my workspace. So my workspace. So يحو رجع ردلنا البانل اللي نحن عملناه قبل last time. Okay, so to reset back your workspace, you can just go Window, Workspace, Reset Standard. Okay, in that case, it's Reset Standard because we're on Standard Workspace. If we were on Animation, it would be Reset Animation. So I'm gonna press Reset Standard. I'm gonna press Yes. It's gonna bring me back اول ما فتحنا After Effects. So اذا كتير خفقتوا بالبانلز عم تشتغلوا فيهم وضعتوا اخر شيء ومش عم تلاقوا شيء بقى, it's always a good idea to reset your workstation, your workspace. Okay, so that's basically مبدأ ال workspaces and panels. Okay, next thing عملناه is we imported a file into After Effects. Now, to import a file, you can just right click here, say import. So we right clicked in the project manager. We are going to go to import and then file. اوكي هلا انا عندي الفايلات على my PC on desktop. Okay, it's called Taco Tuesday file. You will be able to find it on Blackboard under content. So make sure to download that وقت بدكم تشتغلوا. Okay, هلا بهيدي الحالة I'm just gonna import in arcade cabinet.ai. So I'm just gonna press import right here. And I'm gonna keep it at composition and layer size. هلا هول كلهم انا حكي عنهم last time كنت طلع لكم اياها على يوتيوب. So اذا بدكم تشوفوا الديتيلز وكل شيء حكى عنه make sure to watch that ترجع. بس هلا عم بعمل ريكاب كتير بسرعة. Okay, so composition and footage dimensions, layer size. I'm gonna press OK. So this is gonna open up the the asset that I just imported, which is this one right here. Okay, so it's a collection of layers and it's gonna create a composition for me. Now, if I double click on the composition right here, it's gonna open up this entire project, so you can see the timeline بين it and بين ال arcade cabinet right here under timeline. So now I can see the layers تبعولاتي. They're the same as the Photoshop layers. So the background is the farthest layer that I have. إذا بكبس هون على background and I drag it up to control mattes, you can see now that صارت فوق. So layering works the same way as Photoshop. Okay, so I'm just gonna bring this back down right here. Let me just enable one thing. Okay. نسيت دورها. Okay, so that's how layering works in After Effects. Okay, and you can see now I created a composition, and this composition is opened right here. And inside this composition, I have all the layers تبعول هول, the arcade layers, because that's what I imported. blackboard أنا ما مبين فايل يوتيوب. لحظة خليني أتأكد لكم. Okay, so this one, content, After Effects. أنا بعت لكم إياها probably announcement ما هيك؟ خلينا نشوف. بلا في online sessions. يا online sessions. That's the first one. ما مش موجودة عندكم هان؟ بلا لازم تكون موجودة. اوكي تمام. هلا مش عم تفتح لأنه الكونكشن رائعة عندي أنا. وساعة زيادة كمان. أيوه ليكم ولا resolution. اوكي whatever. So you can find it here. اوكي أنا بعت لكم أصلا كمان announcement يعني to kick it off يعني إذا بدكم تبلشوا تحضرون. So هلا نفس الشيء حارجع اطلع لكم part 2 هون which is this one right here. Okay, let's close that. We don't need it anymore. Okay, so مطرح ما كنا هلا we open the project تبعولنا and now this is the composition. Now what a composition is حكينا عنها last time. It's a collection of assets that are placed together to create a video. Okay, so let's say نحن الفيديو تبعولنا is like someone running and في وراه background. Okay, so the background اللي وراه للزلمة is part of the composition. The guy running is part of the composition. The animation is part of the composition. إذا في sound they're part of the composition. Anything related to the video تبعولنا is part of the composition, and the composition is what makes up the video آخر شيء. Okay, هلا inside of a video مش ضروري يكون في one composition. There could be multiple compositions. يعني فينا نشتغل 6 7 8 10 compositions whatever to create a video آخر شيء, but it's a collection of assets. So بهالناحية هلا هون arcade cabinets, which is a composition, is a collection of these things right here, which is images. There are vector arts. Okay, so we have different elements that make up the entire scene. Later on, once we start animating, we have to add مثلا sound, we have to add text, so all of them will be added to this composition right here. Alright, so basically now we have a composition created by After Effects by default. لأنه وقتا عملنا import للفايل editنا After Effects, I don't have a composition. You need to create a composition. So I'm gonna do that for you. I'm gonna create a composition the same size as the file you've just imported, which is 2160 by 2160. That's why it has this size right here, because that's the file عملنا له import. That's the size of the file. Okay, so let's create a new composition to see how it looks like. So I'm just gonna press here on create new composition in the project panel, or I can just go composition, new composition, whatever. Okay, so في different ways we can do that, or you can just press here. It's easy as that. So I'm just gonna press like that. It's gonna open up composition settings. So composition name, in that case, we can call it whatever. Let's call it Taco Tuesday because that's the name of the project we're going to do. So it's Taco Tuesday. And عادة preset is on HDTV 1080 29.97. Now HDTV is full high fidelity TV يعني basically we're working 1920 times 1080 مثل ما شفنا هون. Okay, هلا most of the animations are gonna be like that. So once you animate later on, إذا حدا animated بعدين, like in the industry, animators usually work with that because that's our TV resolution and screens on our computers. They work with the 1920 times 1080. So 1920 pixels times 1080 pixels. Okay, هلا بهالحالة ما بدي إياها أنا هيك. We wanna go custom. Okay, so I'm gonna do 1080 by 1080. That's my composition size بدي اياها. Okay, so قد ايه كبر الكانفاس عم بشتغل عليه. So if I just say 1080 هون. Oops, if I just say 1080 like this, you can see that the height اتغيرت كمان. So you can see the height is 608 هلا. طب let me change that. I'm gonna press here, I'm gonna press 1080. Oops, رجع تغير ده كمان. That's because lock aspect ratio is locked right here. Okay, so it's 16 by 9. If I unlock that and I just press on 1080 رح تضل نفس الشيء. Nothing's gonna change with it. That's because أنا عم بحدد له شو بدي الاسبكت ريشيو تبعوله. In that case I want it 1 to 1. That means I want one width equals one height. So as I open paint really quick and I create a rectangle like this, okay, you can see that the height is smaller than the width. Okay, that's how our TV works. But in that case هون, okay, in 1080 by 1080 I want it to be like this. So I'm just gonna change the color and let me draw with that. So I'm gonna press shift and press like this. So this is a square aspect ratio, which is 1 by 1. So it's a 1 by 1 aspect ratio. This side equals this side right here. Whereas hone does not equal to this side right here. This is how our TV works. You can see that the width is bigger than the height of our TV. Okay? But in that case hone, we want it to be 1080 by 1080. That's why it's 1 by 1. Okay? So custom 1080 by 1080, we're gonna keep it at 30 frames per second. Okay, and it's gonna be a 30-second duration. And I'm gonna press OK. So now I have two compositions. Okay, I have a arcade cabinet composition, which is the first one we imported, and I have another one which I just created now. Okay, both of them are different. Heyda it's 1080 by 1080. Heyda it's 2160 by 2160. So it's the double of the last one. Okay, let me see if you have any questions. ماشي حالكم لهلا؟ Should I keep going? بالمبدأ. You can always rewatch them. They're not that hard. They're not that hard. ماشي هول basic information بس انه كترتهم شوي مش مشكلة. عم بقطعكم على كل شيء هلا. Okay, so now I have two compositions. The first one, arcade cabinet, I have inside of it هول elements. Okay, يحهم باينين على السكرين عندي. So if I just select background, you can see background is selected. Screen frame, that's the screen frame. Or I can just press من هون. So if I press here, you can see that the joystick is now enabled. Okay, so now I have another one, which is Taco Tuesday. هلا بقلب Taco Tuesday composition, we have nothing inside of it. There is nothing here. It's only a black canvas. Okay, so I can just add some things to it هون. Okay, let me add this entire arcade cabinet right here. I want to copy all the elements from here inside of Taco Tuesday, which is another composition. So to do that, I just select Control Mats. I press Shift on the keyboard. I keep pressing on it, and I go to the background. Okay, so now I've selected everything. I press Control C in order to copy them. So Control C for copy. I go to Taco Tuesday. Okay, and I just say Control V. So that's for paste. Control V. So here you go. I've just copied everything from arcade cabinet to Taco Tuesday. Let me just mute my phone here. Okay, so now all the elements of Alp Arcade Cabinet are now in Taco Tuesday. So basically what happened هون is that their order is right. Okay, so the background ورا and everything is in its correct position. بس المشكلة إنه arcade cabinet is 2160 by 2160 whereas Taco Tuesday is different. It's 1080 by 1080. So أصغر منها مرتين. So مش مبين كل شيء، مبين نصها، مبين مش نصها، مبين one quarter of it، مبين بس هالميلة. Okay. So I wanna make it smaller to fit the entire canvas. Okay, so scaling in After Effects works the same way as Photoshop. I just click and drag over the elements. I select all of them. You can see now I have all the bounding boxes, the pivot points. So I can just click عليها and drag down. Okay. Two things are happening that are not good. أول وحدة, Ctrl plus to zoom in. أول وحدة is if I click and drag down, you can see that they're not being dragged down proportionally. Okay, so you can see عم مغمطهم يعني لك شكلهم كيف طالعين. Another thing is that they're being scaled down individually. يعني وقت اصغرهم الباك عم تصغر لوحدها، السكرين فريم عم تصغر لوحدها، سو كله تخربط ببعضه. سو اذا بزيحهم هلا هو ليك كيف صار شكلها غلط. There you go. Okay, so Ctrl Z to go back. So let's solve it. أول وحدة, to scale it down proportionally, I just click on the bounding box and I press shift and scale down. So now I'm scaling down proportionally. كيف ما زيح it doesn't matter, بضلوا نفس ال proportions تبعولاتي. Another thing, they're being scaled down individually. لأنه إذا بتجوا بتقربوا لهون, you can see that each element has an anchor point. So إذا بصغرها هيدي, ليكوا كيف بتصغر حسب الانكر بوينت تبعولتها. So عم تصغر على السنتر. نفس الشيء هون. This one right here. See the pivot point? That's تبعول الجويستيك. So if I just click here and drag it down, عم تصغر in proportions to the anchor point. So to solve that, I need to parent it كل ال elements to the background because the background هي الوحيدة الانكر point تبعولتها بالنص, which is right here. So if I just click and drag like this, you can see now عم تصغر بالنص like that. So to parent, I can just click right here on this element and I can select the parent that I want. Now هلا نرجع نحكي عن البارنتنج بعدين بنشوف شو بتعمل. بس let's just do it هلا now. So I just press on the parent which is none and I want to parent it to the background which is right here. So the 7 background, that's it, 7 point background. So now إذا بصغر ال background, I just select the background and I click and drag. You can see now that control cabinet عم تصغر معها. So let's select everything else. Background. So now صاروا كلهم they're parented to the background. So now if I select the background and I click and drag it down, you can see now that everything عم يصغر مع ال background accordingly. So ما بقى شيء عم يصغر لوحده. صاروا كلهم عم يصغروا in relevance to the background تبعولته. So basically if you want to think about it, you have, let's say, two things. Okay, so that's the first one. Let's create a new one. So, okay, let's create another one. Okay, so let's call this P for parent and C for child. Now the child always takes from the parent. So إذا parent has طلع لفوق أو نزل, الchild كمان بيطلع لفوق أو بينزل. So it follows it. It follows it around. So in that case, once I parented كل layers to the background, you can see that هون كله background مبين. I can just make this smaller or bigger according to the background. Okay, so I can just now right click عليها, go transform. So right click, transform, and say fit to comp. Comp means composition. So I'm fitting the entire asset to the composition. So if I press that, كله بصير in accordance to the compositions. كله صار نفس السايز. In that terms. Okay, so now كله رجع محله. So now نقلت كل الارcade cabinet to the Taco Tuesday file right here. Any questions? Okay, so now this is a composition basically. So a composition is a collection of files that are placed together to create the final video تبعولنا. هلا أنا I have two compositions. Okay. Sometimes I want to create something called a pre-composition. A pre-composition. Now, what a pre-composition is just a composition inside of another composition. So this is a composition called Taco Tuesday, okay? So if I just import in arcade cabinet, so I click and drag down right here. So now I have a composition and another composition. Okay, this is called a pre-comp. متى بنستعملها a pre-composition? Basically, if I just open the video that we're gonna do هلا بنخلصه هال 2 weeks probably. So I'm just gonna open that. Okay, you can see now that I have the arcade cabinet برا, and you can see that on the screen I have a video running. Both of them are different compositions. They're not one composition. The joystick and the buttons برا and the cabinet is one composition, and the screen is another one. So I have two videos inside of each other. That's where I use a pre-composition. Okay, so right here, everything on the screen later on is gonna be its own composition, and the arcade cabinet is gonna be its own composition. So I'm gonna have two compositions basically. I'm just gonna delete that. Okay, so let's create a composition now that's only for the screen. Okay, so now I have one composition and another one, and an asset I just imported. That's the arcade cabinet. So let's create a new composition. If I press on the create new composition right here, it's gonna open up this panel. I'm gonna call this screen. Okay, so screen, because that's where I'm gonna place it. I'm gonna place it on the screen. It's gonna be 1200 by 1200 by 1200. Okay, and it's gonna be 30 frames, and it's gonna be 30 seconds long. And I'm gonna press OK. So now I've created a third composition, which is basically called screen. Okay, هلا inside of screen, we don't have anything. It's empty. We have Taco Tuesday, which contains whole elements, and Arcade Cabinet, which contains whole elements. Now, before we keep going further, it's always good to organize. It's always good to organize your project manager, because as stated previously, the project manager is basically your manager for everything you're importing in. So let's say I'm importing in music, I'm importing in images and videos. كل شيء بفوت After Effects is gonna be placed inside of the project panel. Now, the more we add to our project and the more assets we bring in, the more it's gonna become hectic. يعني أكتر حيصير ضياع بقلب project manager, because we're gonna have a lot of files to work with. So it's always good to organize them and create folders, just like our desktop. So I wanna create something. So I'm gonna right click and say new folder. And now it gives me the option to call it whatever I want. I wanna call it assets. Okay, assets is everything I'm using inside of the video. In that case, my assets are arcade layers, which is the arcade cabinet right here. So I'm just gonna click and drag it to assets, just like on my desktop, نفس الشيء بتمشي. And then I wanna import in this composition, which is arcade cabinet. So now I can just collapse that and open this whenever I want. So I'm organizing it. Okay, let's create another one. So right click, new folder. I'm gonna call that comps. Comps mean compositions. So I'm just gonna import in Taco Tuesday. That's my composition. And I have pre-compositions. So new folder. I'm gonna call that pre-comps. And I import in screen. So inside of pre-compositions I have screen. Inside of compositions I have Taco Tuesday. And inside of assets I have arcade layers and the composition tabletta. Okay, so I'm gonna open them up just for you to see them. أحسن. So I'm organizing the way I import things into After Effects. It's always a good standard to do that. يعني تضلكن رتبوا your projects in order تا آخر شيء ما يصيروا كتير بشعين، بطلوا تعرفوا كيف تلاقوا الفولدرز تبعولاتكم والاسيتس، بتخفوا آخر شيء. So make sure to organize them حسب انتم كيف بدكم. هلا I want to import other layers and other assets inside of After Effects. Till now I've just imported the cabinet right here. So I want to import everything else. So I want to import everything else inside of assets. So I'm gonna click on assets. Okay, I'm gonna go file and import. which is I have no idea where yeah, import. Okay, so file import and file. So I want to import a file. So it's gonna open up this again, and I'm gonna select tacotruck.ai, taco.ai, and 8-bit heads. Okay, arcade cabinet I already imported that in, so there is no need to import it again. And after I select all three of them, I'm just gonna press import. Here you go, يحو طلعوا بقلب assets 8-bit heads, taco AI and tacotruck.ai. That's because قبل ما عملت import I pressed on assets. If I didn't press on assets كنت I imported them in the project manager directly. Okay, so in that case right here, this one 8-bit heads is made out of different layers. وقت اشتغلناهم بإلlustrator, which is another Adobe product, they were created using layers just like Photoshop. Okay, هلا وقت to import an Adobe Illustrator file وموجود بقلبه layers, After Effects imports it in as a still image. So هيدي صارت image لوحدها. If I just click and drag that here, you can see now it's an image لوحدها. بس هيدي it's actually made out of layers just like this one right here. بس المشكلة انه After Effects imported that in as a still image. Now to fix that, I right click on it and I say replace footage. So right click on it, replace footage with layered comp. Okay, so now you can see now it's created a composition for me called 8-bit heads. And now يحو مثل الارcade cabinet صار عندي 8-bit heads with different layers inside of it. So this is when it comes to importing in assets into After Effects. Always organize your files and always know what you're working with. يعني sometimes you're working with different layers. After Effects بتفوت لهم إياها صورة لوحدها. So make sure to always make them layered compositions. In that case right here. Okay, so الأسيتس الفولدر تبعولي صار فيه بقلبه هيك. And so is the comps and the pre-compositions. So now إذا بسكرهم كلهم ليكوا شو صارت نظيفة. صرت أعرف وين كل شيء موجود. So I can always go back to it. Okay, so now I have a screen composition. Now let's close everything else. Let's close the arcade cabinet. We don't need it. Let's leave Taco Tuesday and screen up. Okay. So inside of screen, there is nothing inside of it now. Okay, so let's import something. Let's go to assets and let's import in tacotruck.ai. So I'm gonna click here and drag it all the way to the timeline. So tacotruck.ai. So now I have on my screen a taco truck. This is placed directly on inside of screen. Okay. هلا Taco Tuesday, that's the screen تبعولتها right here. So if I just go to, I'm gonna close assets, I go to pre-comps and import screen inside of my project panel, which is right here under screen cabinet. Okay, so as you can see, I have a composition inside of another composition that makes it a pre-comp. Because on screen right here, inside of this composition, I wanna create this video. So that's the screen composition right here. That's where I'm gonna animate the tacos, the letters, and whatever. Whereas barra is another video that's running. Okay, so the screen is its own composition, and it's inside of another composition in that case. So that's what's happening here. So if I just move that هون, it moves هون. And if I just rotate that like this, هلا بنحكي عن rotation. Inside of Taco Tuesday, it's gonna be like that. So whenever I animate هون, I animate هون. Okay? Because screen is already inside of Taco Tuesday in this case. So I'm gonna press Ctrl Z to go back to the original state. Okay. Now, before we start animating, يعني هلا we're starting to get to the fun stages to where we start animating. But before we start animating, we need to get certain things in order. أول شيء we need to talk about how to move things around in After Effects, and the other thing how to set up the scene. So ما نحكي هلا بهالسيشن عن how to move things around in After Effects and we'll be done, and later on we're gonna set up the scene. So we have to create الانيشال ستيج اللي بدنا اياها. So نحن basically عم بعرف عم ضلني افتح الفيديو بس انه So we have to put them in order. نيجي نحط التراك هون ونحط another face هون ونحط التكست ونظبط السين ونبلش نرجع نعمل لها animation later on. بس هلا let's talk about how to move things in After Effects. So مبدأ movement in After Effects relies on something called transformation. So everything in After Effects relies on transformations. So if I press on tacotrack.ai هي موجودة هون and I open this little icon here, I just pressed it, it's gonna open up another panel called transform. So inside of transform, I open that up. I'm gonna have anchor points, position, scale, rotation, and opacity. These are the 5 transforms that we will be working with. Let's talk about position first. Now position is nothing كتير صعب. It's just the position تبعول الاسset inside of the composition تبعولته. So in that case, you can see that it's made out of two numbers, 600 and 600. That's the x and that's the y. So basically إذا بيجي بحط هون 0 and 0 ليكو وين صارت. That's the origin point تبعول الجراف نحن عنا 0 0. It's not in the center. إذا بيجي بحط 1200 by 1200, it's going to be here. Okay, so إذا بيجي بحط كمان 0 by 1200, it's gonna be here. And 1200 by 0, it's gonna be here. So that these are the 4 corners of your composition. So 0 0 0 1200 1200 0 1200 1200. So you can see now it's a graph basically. So وقت اجي احط 600 600 600 and 600, you can see صارت بالنص. Okay, so basically that's what a position is. Let's see if I missed something else, another important thing. Okay, so if I basically move that around هون with the move tool, I just click and drag like this, you can see that the numbers are moving right here. Okay, or I can just press here and just drag that around. So I just click on the number and click and drag to the right, to the left or the right. Left I go to the negatives, right I go towards the positive. So لاحظتوا في اطلع برات الكومبوزيشن تبعولته. So that's how we basically animate. We just do that. Right? We just animate all the values and they're gonna be animated. So we move forward, we move backwards, we move up, and we move down. Or we can just click and drag like this. We animate من هون. We move the position. Now, let's talk about parenting هون. Now, if I just duplicate a layer, so if I just press on this layer right here, and I press Ctrl D on the keyboard, D is for duplicate, so Ctrl D, I will have another taco truck, so I just click and drag this out. Okay, so I have two taco trucks now. Let's say I want to parent this truck to the one above it, so I'm just gonna press none and say tacotrack.ai. So now if I move this one, which is the parent, the child is gonna move also. But it's not gonna happen if I move the child. The parent will not move. So I can just position that here and move this one. So now they're moving together. Okay, so that's basically how parenting works. Now if I just click here and say none and move this now, this is not gonna move anymore. So that's how parenting works in this context right here. So now I just go back to transform and say 600 by 600 to center it now بالنص. Okay, so let's talk about a few more things. Now إذا بيجي بعمل هيك like this, I'm gonna make it a little bit smaller. So just click and press shift and drag down, and I'm gonna press Ctrl D, 1 2 3 4. So I duplicated it 3 more times, so now I have 3 more taco trucks like this. Okay, so I have different elements now on my scene. If I just click and drag all of them, I can make them smaller by just pressing and holding shift and making them smaller. So صغرتهم شوي. So now I have trucks on the screen تبعولتي. Oops. Okay, so now if I just, let me just do that. Okay, ما بعرف إذا سامعين كلبي عم يشنخر وراي so ما تتفاجئوا من الصوت. Alright, so I'm gonna select all of them and I'm just gonna press مسموع الصوت ايه قاعد مثل البقرة وراي مش كلب هذا. Okay, so I'm just gonna select all of them. Okay, so and import another panel called the align panel. Okay, so I'm just gonna press on window. Okay, and just press on align here. Okay, so if I do that, it's gonna create another panel called align, which is right here. So I can just click on the words تبع align and drag it up towards here. Okay, so now I have it on top, align. Okay, so I'm just gonna select all of them and let's see what that does. So this horizontal left alignment, it's a horizontal left alignment. So if I press on that, كله حيروح towards the left أبعد وحدة أبعد taco truck. So let's just see that again. So هيدي أبعد taco truck. So if I just press on this right here, everything is gonna go towards this one. If I press on this one, horizontal align right and not left, everything is gonna go to this taco truck. So right here. So this is good when it comes to animating as we can create fast shortcuts. بدل ما تجرهم كلهم one by one, we can just select all of them and press this one right here. Okay. Now if I just align them like this in a single file with different sizes كل وحدة, so this and drag down and this and drag up a little bit. Okay, so just different sizes and I select all of them and I press here, which is the horizontal center distribution. You can see now the gaps صاروا تقريبا نفس السايز. They're exactly the same size actually. إلا هيدا. Okay, so I can distribute them along horizontal axis قد بعضهم كلهم يكونوا. Okay, so this is basically when it comes to aligning different elements together. Now I'm gonna delete everything, so select this and press delete. And let's talk about one more thing for today and we'll be done. Let's talk about the scale in that case right here. So you can see now that I have a percentage and not a number. So this is 33.3%. So if I just put that 100 back, كبرت, it became the original size now. So that's the هيدا ال original size نحن اخترعناها فيها. That's the 100% of its size. So إذا بجي بحط 50 هون, that's the half of it. That's the half of the size. So كأنه عم بجي أعمل the size times 0.5. So I'm just gonna cut this in half. So this 25% gonna make it 25% of its original size. You can see now عم تصغر. If I make this 200, I'm gonna make it double its size. Okay, so this is when it comes to scaling up or down. Now عادة it's just when it comes to this right here, this is the width and the height. So إذا بجي لهون بطفي هيدا هون link constraint proportions, I just click on that and I write هون 40. You can see now that راحت شوي بالعرض. That's because I don't have this proportion on. So I can make this bigger like this. هلا no one actually uses this. Okay, so you want to actually keep the proportions intact. So I'm just gonna press on that. So let's just bring this back to 20. Let's say 80 and 80 right here. And I'm gonna press on the constraint proportions here. So now if I drag this up, they're gonna be dragged up on both the X and the Y. X and the Y. So always keep that chain link enabled. Okay, so let's see how this behaves with the parenting. So if I create another one, so I'm gonna press on the taco track and press Ctrl D. I'm gonna create another taco track. So I duplicate this. مثل وقت بالposition, I'm just gonna parent this to the one above it. So I'm gonna press on parent taco track.ai. So now if I move this, the other one will move. Let's see if I scale this down. So I want to go right here, transform, scale. يحو. As you can see, when I parent something together, and if I scale down the parent, the child will be scaled down as well, just like the position. So I can move it with the position and I can scale it down together. Okay, so إذا بجي بفتح هيدا كمان, which is the child, you can see the scale. So that's the scale right here. okay? So the scale does not move because it's relative to the parent. It's not relative to the composition. بس إذا بيجي لهون وبصغر هيدا بلش تصغر هون and this the same scale will be intact, so nothing will change in terms of that. Now نفس الشيء for rotation and anchor point, which I will cover next time. We don't need to نزيد عليكم بقى خلاص بلشوا تزهقوا أصلا. So I'm gonna leave them for next time. We're gonna set up the scene and start animating next time. اوكي بس هلا هول حابب كنت تفهمون قبل ما نفوت بالانيميشن قد ما فهمتوا تفهموا منه it's fine. Okay, so any questions regarding this session or the last session I will be open هلا خلصنا بكير شوي so حاترك فاتح شوي and I'm gonna stop the recording.